Hey there, sports fans. This is Cal the Constructor. Welcome to Budget Dragon Highlander. In today's episode, we are looking ahead to the upcoming set of Dominaria. Listen to Matt, Gabe, and me pontificate on what we think is the best and worst of this set. Larry is on the disabled list today, but we hope to see him back in action soon. Please remember to like and subscribe. Also, if you like what you see, please help the channel by supporting us on Patreon and follow us on Twitter. Let's get to the game.
Today we're starting off with black miscellaneous cards. As you can see, we've got a few instants, a few sorceries, a creature or two. These just didn't really fit into any solid theme, but that doesn't mean they're not useful. So certainly there might be one or two cards in there that we would want to add into our own decks.
A couple that stand out to me on this page is Cast Down for 2 destroy target non-legendary creature. You know, black always loves their destroy creature spells. So that I find that one pretty good at uncommon. And then Divest, especially with this set. So if you played that in Brawl or some other things, being able to hit an artifact or a creature card, that's really nice for 1 black.
I also really like Cast Down. It's nice to see them doing a Doomblade type effect. It's a shame it doesn't hit commanders, but it hits a lot of everything else. And so that's going to be a really good card. I see that as being a good budget include. I also really like Demonic Vigor because you can slap that on your commander, and then when somebody destroys it, your commander goes back to your hand, and you don't have to pay the commander tax. Dark Bargain is interesting, but I think 4 mana is just a little bit too much. That might see some Pauper play, definitely sees some Brawl play, but I don't think it makes the move up to full EDH.
I don't like either of the creatures on this page. Neither one of them are standoutish, even for the fact that they both fit into Pauper. I don't think they really do much. The one that I also don't like is Eviscerate. 4 mana for a destroy creature. I mean, yeah, it's 1 black, but I still don't particularly care for it.
Well, moving along to our next page. Here we've got a few more miscellaneous black cards here. The one that immediately stood out to me is because it's the only legendary card on there is Lich's Mastery. I can see that doing interesting things with a dual blue-black deck, especially if you have enough counter spells to keep that thing on the battlefield. More power to you.
I'm glad to see another tutor in Final Parting. I like the fact that it's 2 cards. Yeah, one goes to your graveyard, but that's easy enough to fix. The other thing that stands out on this for me is Settle the Score. Fits into a Super Friends deck, so you can get rid of a creature that's bothering you and also pump up your Planeswalker.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head for me, Matt. Final Parting is going to go into my Get Rog deck because I like stuff in the graveyard. Settle the Score is going to go into my Super Friends deck because I like those loyalty counters. What's interesting for me that you guys didn't mention is the Rat Colony. I could see trying to build some sort of a Rats deck now that we have this card that we can have any number of Rat Colonies in it. There are a couple other cards that will let you have a similar effect, so that might be something I go for.
Now, I'm not a modern or anything like that player, but is Rat Colony going to see any play in like a Rat Pack deck?
That deck might show up, but I really doubt it. It may be on the fringes, but it's not going to be able to hold a candle to the meta.
Alrighty, scooching along, it looks like our next page has some miscellaneous blue cards in here. To start things off, I just have to say the art on the new Arcane Flight is rather interesting. I just love that.
And for me, beyond the art, that card is probably my favorite on this page. For 1 blue, +1/+1 and flying, we needed another spectral flight, so there we go.
Yeah, that's good all day. Um, it's interesting in Coldwater Snapper, the 6 mana 4/5 hexproof. It seems like that's a cycle. We saw that other less than good creature on the first page of black cards. But yeah, I mean, maybe deep freeze if I'm really hurting for control pieces. It's nice to be able to toss that on somebody's commander. Um, that way it sort of takes it out of commission, but it doesn't give it indestructible like the white enchant creature of this that does something similar. So I don't see this being too terribly effective, but it's something.
And then next on our list is the second page of blue, just interesting things. I mean, I'm not too fond of In Bolus's Clutches. I think I just don't like it.
I think Unwind gets an automatic include in most control decks because you're able to counter a spell and then leave up, you untap 3 lands, so you're able to hold up another counter spell. Or if you have lands that tap for extra mana, you're able to then start gaining mana off of that exchange. I think that's a pretty good card.
I believe you're completely correct about Unwind. The other card that, if you're playing a blue combo deck, Rescue, is probably a really nice save. For 1 blue to be able to save a piece from a board wipe is pretty nice.
If you're running a mono blue control deck, I think Precognition Field has the potential to be pretty mean, especially if you're able to play any kind of instants or sorceries like counter spells and whatnot from the top of your deck. So it's basically giving you an extra card in your hand. Alrighty, here we have some red miscellaneous cards. Upon first glance, you have some stuff that's pretty interesting, like Frenzied Rage. I'm building a deck that has that in there, so that has potential to get some stuff done, especially Champion of the Flame. That looks like there's some good potential here.
I would agree with that on all accounts. I believe Champion of the Flame is really solid, and especially the Brawl format, where there's not going to be a ton of different ways to deal with everything. The other fun card I see here is Haphazard Bombardment. For 6 mana, it's a little husky in red. However, being able to just start picking off non-enchantment permanents would be nice.
I think Haphazard Bombardment is a fun include in any Chaos deck just because it's going to give you and the rest of your play group all of the lulls, but otherwise it's definitely not going to see any serious play. I also really like Fervent Strike to give it +1/+0 and First Strike and Haste for 1 mana at common is pretty solid.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly good assessment right there. Let's scooch on over to our next page here. Here we sum up the rest of our red miscellaneous cards. The first one that's snuck out to me was Warcry Phoenix. I mean, I love a 4-drop flying in haste, and it's got some fun little stuff with it as well.
Speaking of chaos decks, two-headed giant seems interesting. It's nice that they brought back coin flip. However, I don't think it sees any play in a solid deck. Run Amok is also one of the great cards I see here. For 2 mana, target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample is really nice, especially in common.
I like Radiating Lightning for one of the Sengir decks because it starts pinging all of the creatures somebody controls after you bolt them in the face. I also really like Warlord's Fury. Again, 1 mana common. It gives you a draw power and it lets all your creatures get first strike. This is definitely something I throw into a pauper list like that Saskia deck I tried to play last week. Um, I think they're really trying to put out some solid commons in this set.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Next in amongst our list of slides here, looks like we've only got 1 page worth of white miscellaneous cards here. I definitely enjoy Invoke the Divine among those, destroy a target artifact or enchantment and, gain some life. I think that would see a little bit more use in Brawl as opposed to Commander, but that's just my own opinion.
I think Charge is for a common 1-drop in white, +1/+1 to everything is really nice if you're playing on mono white weenies. On Sarah's Wings, 4-drop is a little rough, but +1/+1 flying, vigilance, and lifelink, so maybe it's worth it. And then I'd also like to mention Pegasus Courser at 3 mana. It maybe isn't as good as giving all of your humans flying, but it does give at least one other creature flying, so that's a nice include.
I really like Seal Away. These Oblivion Ring effects are always good. Giving it flash. If it didn't have a flash and it just said get rid of a tapped creature, it would be garbage. But being able to wait for your opponent to attack with something and then flash exile it is a really nice play at 2 mana. I really like that card in Tiny Leaders. I really like that card in regular EDH. I think Blessed Light is a little bit high, but it reminds me of Final Reward, which is a black card out of, I believe it was in Amonkhet. And so it's nice to see white getting a similar treatment. It also hits an enchantment, so that's going to be really good. There's a little bit of good stuff on here, but again, you can tell they're really trying to make common worth something now.
And finally, to our last page. As you can see, we have 2 lands and an Oath of Teferi. Honestly, what else need to be said? But Oath of Teferi has some very, very fun connotations to it.
Yeah, it's pretty much an auto include along with a couple of the other oaths in a Super Friends deck. The other one that I like here is Cabal Stronghold. If you're playing a mono black, and we focus more on budget stuff, but if you've got enough money to put an Urborg in there, if you're playing more than one color, and then add this in there, it has some utility, but we'll actually see in playtesting if it's worth it or not.
I hate to correct you, Matt, but Cabal Stronghold very importantly says basic swamp on it, which is why this
That
will
it
never be
does.
as good as Cabal Coffers. I understand why they didn't want to do a reprint of Cabal Coffers. except they probably should have, because that's a $27 uncommon, and it's good, but it's not that good. Cabal Stronghold is especially at rare, it's hot garbage. It only goes in mono black decks. I guess it's good ramp for mono black, but otherwise it's not going to go into any multicolored deck at all. Zalfrin Void was supposed to get some modern play for Tron just because it comes into play untapped and scries one, but there are there are so many lands that scry in Commander that I don't think it gets any play. And yeah, Oath of Teferi is just good. Well, there you have it, sports fans. Another one in the books. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit us up on Patreon and Twitter, and come back next week for the next episode of Budget Dragon Highlander.